Hey, folks, good morning and welcome to another episode of Steelers Morning Rush. I'm Alan Saunders, and it is Tuesday, November 26th. The Pittsburgh Steelers will have their first of 4 straight practices this week, an unusual schedule for the Steelers coming out of their mini bye after their Thursday Night Football loss to the Cleveland Browns. Decided not to practice Monday, are practicing today, so we'll have sights and sounds from practice, and then we'll have Mike Tomlin after practice at about 2:30. So stay tuned for everything from myself. On the south side, it should be a very busy day over there as the Steelers get ready for their Week 13 game against the Cincinnati Bengals. Of course, we'll have lots going on here on the YouTube channel, in addition to Sights and Sounds. And then, of course, I'll be back with Zachary Smith just around 6 p.m. for another episode of Steelers Afternoon Drive. So make sure you like, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss a thing here on the YouTube channel. And we are answering a question from that YouTube channel today, one that came in from yesterday's Morning Rush episode. Gary McCombs asks, "Hey, Alan, love your shows. Deep dive sometime on what it would take for the offensive line to improve to a top 10 level." It's interesting. Smitty and I actually just talked yesterday afternoon about this offense and how good it can be. And the question that we were talking about there was asking about how good it can be with Arthur Smith and Russell Wilson. And I mentioned, well, look, Arthur Smith had, I think, the 4th best offense in the NFL with the Tennessee Titans back in 2019. Clearly, it is possible for an Arthur Smith-led offense to be very, very good. But one of the things the Steelers don't have, those Tennessee Titans did have, was an absolute dominant offensive line. Yeah, they don't have Derrick Henry either, but Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren are no slouches. But that offensive line, really was what made those Titans teams what they were. And the Steelers don't quite have that yet. And so I think it's a good question. What do they need? And I think the biggest answer is just time. I really like the pieces the Steelers have added to their offensive line. They're playing 2 rookies in Zach Frazier and Mason McCormick. They're playing a second-year player who's actually younger than those rookies and Broderick Jones. They've got another rookie who hasn't played yet, who will be, and I think maybe the most polished of the young players in Troy Fautanu. And they've got a grizzled old vet and Isaac Seumalo, who, has been there, done that, got the Super Bowl ring to show for it. I really like the group. It's just that offensive linemen are like trees. You plant them, you don't decide, this backyard really needs some shade. Let me plant an oak and then see immediate returns on that investment. You don't decide, I'd really like an apple tree. I'm going to throw down some saplings here and start to pick some apples that fall. That's not how it works. Bigger players take longer to develop. It happens on both sides of the defensive line, especially young tackles are always bad. It's one of the reasons why I think that they should have a lot of patience with Broderick Jones, who has been playing a lot better lately. I thought he had another pretty good game against Cleveland in a day where the rest of the offensive line really did not. I thought Broderick Jones was, again, one of the better players on that unit. I like the guys they have. I think they can develop into a dominant offensive line. If you look at what Zach Frazier and Mason McCormick have done as rookies, I think that should give you a lot of hope for the future of this offensive line. I mean, will they eventually need to replace Isaac Seumalo? Yeah, he's getting up there. Probably doesn't have another contract in him as a premier starter. But, man, they've got the pieces for a dominant unit. It is just not there yet. And, look, not all those saplings turn out to be great big giant oak trees. Some of them won't work out. But I really like the direction they've gone in so far. One more guard, and they've got the complete set there, and they can start working on the defensive line, which is where I think their next big project lies. But, yeah, so I don't think there is not a quick and easy solution to offensive line problems. As we've seen, by the way, since the Steelers have been dealing with this since about 2020, and they've just tried to shove parts in there. And sometimes some of those offensive lines work pretty well when you're just plug and play random guys and whatever. But if you really want a dominant offensive line, you've got to build it. And I think the Steelers are heading down that path in the right trajectory. We'll see where it goes. I mean, probably will not be until the end of next year before we really have even a decent idea of what the ceiling is like on players like Jones, Fautanu, Frazier, and McCormick. And then they can find out what they want to do with them going forward, how many of those guys they want to keep in those spots, or if they want to continue to add other pieces. But so, that, Gary, I hope that answers your question. I think it's just time. And, I think Pat Meyer's done a pretty good job as offensive line coach. I know, like, a lot of people, for whatever reason, don't like him. I think you look at the fact that they've been playing these two rookies. Heck, they had to play Ryan McCollum for a while, and he did just fine. I think that goes a long way. But maybe if it's not working with him and Broderick Jones, the Steelers could look to bring in a different coach. I don't know, but I think there's certainly enough talent on this unit to get the job done at a very high level. We'll see if they're able to turn that talent into production. And I wonder, if we have not seen an Arthur Smith team have that kind of offensive productivity without that good of an offensive line. And especially when I'm looking at the red zone struggles, which we talked about yesterday, and, like, I don't know, I'm not sure that he has been this, like, wizard of a play caller where he's dialing up all the right stuff and hitting all the right notes. I think his numbers in Tennessee look good because he had a dominant offensive line. I'm not saying it's required, but I'm not sure I feel good about Arthur Smith getting the Steelers to a dominant offense without that piece. Like, it seems like those two things have to go hand in hand. He can do it without a dominant quarterback. I feel very good about that. The Steelers do not need to, like, trade up for Cam Ward, by the way. I don't think that's in the cards. But I do think having a dominant offensive line is something that he's just going to require in order to have an offense that is going to work at that level. The good news is their offense is plenty good enough right now to get to where they want to go. Are they going to win a Super Bowl this year? Probably not. But I think they're going to get back to the playoffs. I think they're going to do pretty well there because I like the talent that's coming along on that offensive line. The defense is playing really great. We've seen that be a reliable paradigm of teams having. We actually took an episode here a couple months ago, broke down the numbers, but great defense plus average offense, that's a good recipe. Doesn't necessarily make it a Super Bowl recipe, but it's a good recipe for teams that play deep into January, and that's what the Steelers desire to be, I think, more than anything else right now. And we'll see what happens when they get there. That's all I got for right now. We got a hugely busy day. Like I said, make sure you don't miss anything here on the YouTube channel. Also, go over to SteelersNow.com. Check out all the written work for myself, DB, Aaron Becker, Chris Ward, the whole team. And I'll be back here with more on the YouTube channel a little bit later. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, enjoy.